Hi, everyone, and welcome to Get Hired Live. I'm your host, Andrew Seaman, managing editor for jobs and careers at LinkedIn. I'm coming to you live from the Empire State Building. It's not my living room anymore, but it's great to be back in the office. And I'm so happy to have all of you here. In fact, if you are joining us, make sure that you're introducing yourselves into the stream. So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, what you want to get out of your job search or career, and network with each other. There's a lot of people in the stream and they talk to each other about their jobs and career aspirations. And the cornerstone to a successful job search or career is building bridges and building a strong network. And there's no better time to start than right now. And we already have so many people in the stream. We have Charles from Hong Kong. We have Yolanda from Texas, Danilo from Florida, Nitin from India. We have Monica from Brooklyn, Mary from Chicago, Joy from Maryland, where I'll be this weekend, actually, Dave from Michigan, and Anthony from Kentucky. So welcome to all of you. Keep introducing yourselves in the comments and also connecting with each other. And don't forget to get your questions in because we have such a wonderful and extraordinary guest today. And I can't wait to bring him onto the screen. We have Peter Quigley, who's the president and CEO of Kelly. So welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Andrew. Great to be with you today.
Yes, great to be with you. And so can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also your company? I think a lot of people know Kelly, but can you tell us a little bit about, what Kelly does and how long it's been around?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to share some insights into what we do here at Kelly. Andrew, we connect people to work in ways that enrich their lives. That's what we call our noble purpose. It's something we've been doing for 75 years now. Russ Kelly founded the staffing industry here in Detroit when he connected women who had been working in the armament factories here in Detroit during World War II when they were displaced when GIs came home from Europe, and he helped them find work. And that's really what Kelly does. We're a very different company than we were 75 years ago. We find work for 350,000 people a year. We find permanent work for tens of thousands of people every year. We supply scientists, engineers, technology professionals, teachers and educators, electronic assembly workers, production line workers, call center in 25 countries, as well as providing business process outsourcing, recruitment process outsourcing, managed service providers, and many other services to our clients. I've been with the company for almost 20 years. I became CEO in 2019, 5 months before the beginning of a global pandemic. Great timing on my part. But I was attracted to the industry and to Kelly in particular because of something that I feel very strongly about, which is the power and dignity of work. And that's what we do, is connect people to work. And I think I feel passionate about it because of my upbringing, and I saw firsthand the transformative power of work when my mother had to raise 4 kids on her own after my father left by cobbling together odd jobs here and there to keep us out of financial distress. And that's what's inspired me. And it's actually why I launched the Kelly Equity at Work program a couple of years ago.
Yeah, definitely. And also congrats to you for actually shepherding your company through such a turbulent time, especially that's baptism by fire, if I've ever heard of it. And and I've known so many people who've worked with Kelly over the years, and you touch so many people really around the world. And I do want to just give a quick shout out to some other people who are joining us and from around the world. We have Roberta from Kansas City, we have Kirk from Georgia, Nicole from Oklahoma, Helen from Houston, Nicole from Cape Town, Megan from Canada, Roderick from Chicago, Laura from Florida. So welcome to all of you. Like I said, keep introducing yourselves, ask questions in the comments, and we'll get it to you in just a little bit. And Peter, you did mention the Equity at Work program. And can you tell us a little bit about why you started it and really what it's all about?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's something that I think is a really important topic and something that I'm very passionate about. Basically, Equity at Work is an extension of our noble purpose, but it's based on the position or perspective that too many people can't find access to meaningful work because of barriers that exist in our system. It could be somebody with a criminal record. It could be somebody on the autism spectrum, a veteran, an opportunity youth that grew up in poverty. And still today, too many companies have barriers like automatic disqualification for somebody that has a blemish on their criminal record, outdated drug screening policies, requiring a 4-year degree when credentials or an experience would be adequate, or overly complicated and complex interviewing and onboarding processes. So we established Equity at Work to shed a spotlight on these barriers, and Equity at Work is about breaking them down. At Kelly, we've introduced a couple of programs. Kelly Discover is a program to help adults on the autism spectrum or opportunity youth who grew up in poverty to find work in the IT sector, even though they may not have had a traditional education background. The Kelly Certification Institute to help workers find a way to upskill through apprenticeships and internships and connect them with higher paying jobs. And then Kelly 33, which is a program that's designed to help second chance job seekers, people who have a blemish on their criminal record.
Yeah, and I really want to focus on Kelly 33, and I guess can you start out by telling us actually what that 33 symbolizes?
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for it. Some brilliant branding person came up with it, but it really epitomizes the challenge we have. 33 represents the 33% of working age adults who have some blemish on their criminal record. Now that's 78 million people. So I'm quite confident that we all know somebody, whether it's a family member or a neighbor or a friend or a colleague, that is one of those 78 million. And Kelly 33 is designed to create opportunities for individuals that are in that group. 95% of them, by the way, are nonviolent. And yet 9 out of 10 employers require a background screen, which reduces the likelihood of a second interview by 50% for this population. So we started in our own house. We revisited our own programs, our processes, our adjudication of background screen issues, and we've completely revised them with very positive results. We work with many of the Fortune 100, and I'm very pleased to say that most of them have also revisited their background screen policies to make sure that they're not unwittingly filtering out people simply because they've made a mistake and now paid their debt to society.
Yeah, and what I really like is on your website for Kelly 33, you use the example of what happened with Toyota, and you partnered with Toyota, and this is something that you've been doing for years. Can you tell us really what happened with Toyota and what they saw in terms of, opening their talent pool to people who, maybe they did something in their past, but they paid their debt through either, prison time or something like that. Can you tell us what Toyota experienced by sort of engaging in the second chance opportunity?
Yeah, I'd love to, Andrew. Thank you. And Toyota deserves huge credit. It's a great company. They're very forward-looking in so many things, but they were an early adopter of second chance hiring. They did it for business reasons as well as because they believed it was the right thing to do. But at their assembly plant in Georgetown, Kentucky, they realized they weren't getting enough talent flow. They did an analysis with us. We realized that we were winnowing out a lot of candidates because of their very strict background screen requirements. So we revisited those, we overhauled them, updated them, and we ran a pilot. There were 1,200 applicants. 92% we deemed to be eligible to move on for consideration for employment at Toyota. And more than half ultimately found employment at Toyota, which is a great story. And what we learned is that these workers are loyal, they're dependable, they show up, they stay in their jobs, and the numbers bear that out. By running this pilot, Toyota increased its talent funnel by 20%. It reduced its turnover by an amazing 70%, and it increased its diversity by 10%. So it got its jobs filled more quickly, it got recognized in the community, and it produced a very good business result. And importantly, Andrew, not a single one of those individuals that we placed at Toyota was terminated for an infraction related to their criminal record. These workers, they're thankful for the job, they show up, and that's not just at Toyota. The national data support this as well. The Society of Human Resource Management did a survey, and 85% of HR managers and 80% of operating managers say second chance workers are as productive or more productive and more dependable than their counterparts. Our own research supports the same outcome. Overwhelmingly, individuals believe that we shouldn't automatically disqualify people from a job simply because they've made a mistake in their past. And in this time of great resignation, as people have choices about where they work, we all know that people want to buy things from companies that they share values with, but we now know they also want to work for companies that they share their values with. And more than 3/4 of Americans believe and want to associate either buying or working for a company that doesn't discriminate in their hiring practices.
Definitely. And, I've had the opportunity, fortunately, to talk to a lot of people that work on like programs to help people who are even sometimes still incarcerated. And what they find is that those people who are given maybe a job once they exit prison or exit probation or something like that, the recidivism rates or the number of people who go back into the criminal justice system are so incredibly low. So really, it's not just beneficial for, like you said, the employers. Really, the research shows that it's beneficial for kind of society, really.
Yeah, I think regardless of political affiliation, I think we can all agree that a job is good for an individual, it's good for their family, and it's good for the community, to say nothing of the economy. So, this is something that I think is becoming more prevalent. We have worked with another company since we launched Kelly 33. They were a home decor and furniture company. They were struggling to meet their production. They were getting pressure from their investors. We set up a Kelly 33 program with them. We found 200 people to work on their production lines. They recovered from their production delays. They're now on time. We're their sole supplier, and we've worked with them to continue this program. And it really supports this notion that second chance hiring works. Now, we're not the only ones. We're part of a coalition called the Second Chance Business Coalition, which is, I think it's more than 42. It's at least 42. That's the last time I looked. 42 companies that share this belief that creating access to work for individuals that have committed a mistake in their past is a good thing. It's good business, but it's also good for the communities. And these are not small employers. This is Walmart and CBS and General Motors and Microsoft and JP Morgan Chase and the Eaton Corporation. So I'm really encouraged that we've got some momentum behind this very important initiative.
Yeah, definitely. And, if you go on Kelly 33, you can find a link to that and all the employers that are part of that coalition. And like you said, they're not small employers. These are some of the titans of sort of the American workforce and really the global workforce. So, it's definitely promising. And then at the same time, I know that there's been a big movement across the US in different jurisdictions to do something called block the box, which is that if you've had a criminal history, nonviolent criminal history, basically it prohibits employers from asking about it, which is also sort of giving people a leg up in the system, which I think is good. And before we continue, I just want to give another shout out to some people who are watching. We have a bunch of people, who are putting their questions questions in, so please get yours in as well. We have David from Colorado Springs. We have Jack from Virginia, Victor from Texas, Jose from Florida, Matthew from California, Sonia from Missouri, Christina from Massachusetts, and Rosemary from Georgia. So welcome to all of you. Like I said, keep introducing yourselves and getting your questions in. We'll be taking them in just a bit. And Peter, I guess my next question for you is that with all of this experience from working with people who are part of Kelly 33 and these other employers, for people who are out there who may have, like you said, a blemish on their record and a nonviolent criminal history, what is your advice to them to get back into the workforce or maybe get that opportunity from an employer? Because I think, a lot of them, they might be a little bit traumatized from previous encounters with employers that just say, listen, no, we're not going there. What's your advice to them?
Well, Andrew, let me say, to start that I wouldn't pretend, as much as I try to put myself in the shoes of somebody that has been rejected again and again because of a criminal record. And so I can only say to start that there are employers out there that are willing to engage with second chance job seekers. So that's the good news. I know at Kelly, I've been inspired by the individuals that we've hired, second chance job seekers. David, who was had 2 DUIs, was falling on tough times, got his act together. We hired him as a temporary employee, and our policy prevented him from being hired as a permanent employee, but his manager was relentless and insisted we hire him permanently. We changed our policy. It's been changed since. He now manages 400 people in a call center. So, and he's a leader. He's respected. He's a great guy. And Jeffrey is another person who's publicly shared their story. So, but he was an Iraq War veteran, battlefield injury, prescribed and became addicted to opioids, PTSD, homeless, through a bunch of other organizations, got some help, came to Kelly because we have such a great track record of supporting veterans. We found him a job. He's now a talent supply chain advisor, works with some of our largest customers. So it can be done. We've seen it. I don't be discouraged. I think being transparent is really important. Having documentation, being able to explain what the charge was, what the situation was, what the outcome is, where you are now is really important to helping the employer find a path to employment. And then working with companies that have committed to working with second chance job seekers at secondchancebusinesscoalition.com. You can find information about those employers who are more likely to work with individuals that are in that situation. And I also would recommend go to mykellyjobs.com, which we have tens of thousands of job openings. And as I said, a lot of people find permanent work through Kelly Jobs. And I can commit to you that we will review an application. There's no automatic disqualification, and we'll do what we can to help you find work.
Yeah. And in fact, we have a comment here from Amanda that says incarcerated people that have gotten back out into the workforce are such hard workers. And I think, what employers find, whether it's you've been out of the workforce because of criminal history, or even if you just took time off work, what I find is when I talk to employers, are people who come back to the workforce maybe a little bit later in life, whether it's like in their 30s, 40s, they tend to be better workers because there was that little gap that they took. They were able to find and figure some stuff out in their life. And all the employers that I talk to are usually genuinely surprised and thrilled because they tend to be outperforming a lot of the people who've been consistently in the workforce over years.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, we all need to challenge some assumptions we have about whether it's a criminal background or whether it's a gap in a resume because somebody took some time off to care for themselves or care for a loved one, or those are the kinds of outdated policies and processes that we are trying to break down with equity at work. And the more people we can create access to at least have the opportunity to pursue work, I think it's good for everybody. I think there's frankly just too many companies that haven't kind of woken up to that fact, to, as you pointed out, Andrew, the benefits of having people who have, for one other reason, had an interruption in their work. And in this talent environment, employers would be wise to figure out how to open the aperture and the funnel of their talent pool to create more flow. And the costs of attracting talent, keeping talent, turnover is staggering. So employers understand that, but they haven't yet necessarily arrived at the fact that second chance hiring is a way to address that. And when we do work with companies, we're frankly surprised with the outdated policies, and that's where it starts: updating the policies, figuring out what it is. And a lot of times companies don't know why they have that policy, because it was written before the person enforcing it was born. So we have work to do.
Exactly. And in fact, my last question dovetails really nicely with a comment we have from Heather, which she says, I'm currently advocating with my company for the same. So if you were talking to employees or maybe other CEOs, what's your advice to them to maybe get their leadership to change their minds and say, listen, we're missing a ton of talent here. What is your suggestion for advocating from within?
Well, I think it starts with starting a conversation, right? Having somebody who cares about this as an issue, whether it's second chance job seekers or also challenging things like job salary history and gaps in the resume or a 4-year degree. I mean, these are all things that in our Equity at Work program, we're trying to shed a light on. And that's where it starts: being transparent about this is an issue, and then bring the facts, because the facts reveal unquestionably that the benefits of working with second chance job seekers and some of the other groups that I've mentioned, it's overwhelming. And I think educating senior leaders about the benefits of it, and recognizing, again, in this time of great resignation, people want to work for companies that they feel are doing good. It's not just about making money or making a cool product. And whether it's second chance hiring or another practice that breaks down barriers to finding work, I have found here at Kelly, but also working with many of our customers, that employees and candidates react really well when companies get behind something as well-intentioned and well-purposed as what we're talking about today. And if you need help, we're here, kelly33.com. We also, equityatwork.com. Both are fabulous resources to help you. There's case studies, there's reports, there's references to other companies and organizations. So please let us know if there's anything we can do to help in that dialogue.
Yeah, and in fact, we have a great question here that goes right into that from Chris. It's a foundational question. How do we get accepted into Kelly 33? Is there an application process, or is it just you apply?
Well, if you go to kelly33.com, it will explain all of that. And we really are trying to enlist the support of like-minded organizations. I would also recommend, it's not just Kelly 33. The Second Chance Business Coalition is also a phenomenal organization to get associated with. Again, there's enormous amounts of information that support what we're talking about here. And again, we'd be happy you can leave comments on kelly33.com, and I can assure you that somebody will get back to you and do everything we can to support your journey.
Yeah. And we have a question here from Lisa too that asks, when Kelly matches someone with an employer, does Kelly continue to support them through that first year? What is the process like working with Kelly and then an employer at the other side?
Yeah, it really depends on the employer and the work environment. Using the example of Kelly Discover, where we're trying to place adults on the autism scale or opportunity youth, or youth who have not been exposed to a work environment. We try to create a wraparound environment for a period of time, might be 6 months, might be a year, where we support them, we support their managers so they understand the unique nature of the worker. But whether or not it's a second chance job seeker or another employee, we support our employees as much as we can, not only through their job assignment, but through their career. We like to talk about developing a relationship for life. And because there may be a time where you leave the workforce and you don't need Kelly, but there may be a time when now you're coming back into the workforce and establishing that relationship. And we're invested in individuals' careers, whether they're a Kelly employee or one of our customers' employees or somebody else's employee. It's a relationship for life.
Definitely. And before we go, I would love to ask, because you have your finger on the pulse of really the entire labor market, what is your advice for people who are job searching right now? If there's one thing that they could do today, the people that you encounter, what's your biggest piece of advice to getting hired somewhere?
Well, I think understanding what you're looking for in a job. I mean, this is a great environment for job seekers, and there probably isn't a better time to calibrate what you're looking for and what kind of workforce do you want to be part of? What kind of workplace do you want to work at? What's your work style? All of those, work time, when do you want to work? All of those things create optionality for job seekers that I think is unprecedented. And so I would make sure to take the time to work on what you're looking for. And then whether it's with Kelly or somebody else, explore options that you have with respect to industries, organizations, try before you buy, work in a temporary role at a company, see if you like it, and then apply for a permanent job. But there's lots of options for workers these days, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and I definitely want to underline what you said is know what you want, because I think a lot of people go into it sort of with the idea of a buffet, a little bit of this, a little of that, but it's good to go in and say, oh, I want that, because then you go right to the front of the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Peter. And I hope everyone is following you on LinkedIn. We've been flashing your URL at the bottom of the screen, but I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been my pleasure. And I wish everybody a healthy and prosperous summer.
Yes, thank you. And thank you all for joining us. And I definitely want to underscore what Peter said, is that, even though there's a lot of headlines right now that there are layoffs and hiring freezes, different places, I took a look at the numbers yesterday, and there's still a really good job market for job seekers out there. So even though we hear reports now and then about hiring, things like that, sometimes it's certain industries that are experiencing those slowdowns, but overall hiring is still happening, maybe a little slower than it was, but keep going, because the only way you're going to get a job is to keep putting yourself out there. And we will be back next week, actually, so if you're looking for more help with your career or job search, join us then, because on Friday, June 24th, I will be joined by the Chief People Officer at Calm, who is Scott Doman, and we're going to be talking about creating a inclusive workplace, especially for LGBTQ people, and also how to find those workplaces. That's at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, so a little bit different time. My producer is going to be dropping the link to the show in the comments, so you could RSVP. And again, make sure you note it's 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, not noon like we usually go. And then we always have great programming on the LinkedIn news page where you're watching the show right now. And on Tuesday, June 21st, my colleague, Callie Schweitzer, will be hosting live from the Cannes Lions Festival in France. How do I get an invite to host a show from Cannes? That is my question, but for another day. She'll be talking to executives at Klarna, Moderna, and Lyft about how brands can drive progress through creativity. Again, that's Tuesday, June 21st at 7:15 a.m. Eastern time, because obviously, it's in France, there's a time difference, and, that's the way it is. But be sure that you tune into that. Callie is an incredible person, incredible host, and you're not going to want to miss it. And obviously, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, we're here almost every Friday Friday. We'll be back next Friday. And please take care of yourself. The pandemic's still in flux. The world can be a crazy place. But you could only get hired, you could only get ahead if you're healthy and well enough to do so. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. And until next time, best of luck.